All right, so let's start here. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Quha Zono versus Quha Zono 2 webinar. My name is Petri Latva-Rasku. I am responsible for Quha sales and marketing activities, and today I am going to tell you about the differences between Quha Zono and Zono 2 mice. And I will also I will go in detail through the differences between these two mice and also tell how to choose between those two. And during the webinar, feel free to send us an email to webinar@quha.com, or you can also send your questions if you have via YouTube live chat. So at the end of the presentation, which will take about maybe 15 minutes, we will go through all those questions and we'll try to answer all those. So please use those two methods. And how should we start here? So maybe I will just start by showing you the place where there is a lot of information regarding let's see, switch to this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the quha.com web page, and this is where you can find a lot of information regarding the Quha products. Basically, there is a lot of information, and in this particular case I will open the Quha Zono 2 page. And you can see that there is a lot of information here. Basically, I will show you the devices here. So now you should be able to see on the desktop camera image. There is a Quha Zono, which is this one. And then there is the Quha Zono 2, which is this one. How you can make a distinction between these two mice is that I'm not sure how well you can see, but the plastic cover is dark gray on the Quha Zono and it is completely black on the Quha Zono 2. And that is how you can easily see which mouse you are using. So if you have more than one, then you can easily see them. As you can see, they are very similar in size. And that means that the accessories are compatible with Quha Zono and Quha Zono 2, so you can use the same accessories for both of those. And feature-wise, there is actually quite a bit of difference between these devices. So feature-wise, there is a list of all the features of Quha Zono 2 here. Many of these features are also included in the Quha Zono mouse. So both mice are very accurate. They are pixel perfect. They are plug and play devices. They have multiple wearing options. They are lightweight. They have a rechargeable battery, and you can adjust certain settings. But then there are also differences between these two mice, and I will go through the differences here. Let me just scroll down a little bit here. So the differences you can see also now here on the screen. And perhaps the first thing I will go through is the very short setup version. So I'll switch back to the desktop camera. So I'm just using for this demonstration the Quha Zono 2 mouse. And what I'm going to do here is first I'm going to attach the light eyeglass clip, which is included in the sales package, to the mouse. So it has this, it comes separated. So it has this flexible part which you put in the light eyeglass clip, and then you basically just snap it in the mouse like this. And then you can connect the neck band, which is a part of the head mount kit, and this is actually how you wear this mouse. And in this particular case, I'm going to also attach a couple of switches here, and for this demonstration I'm going to use standard buttons. You would normally use either buttons, or you could use different types of switches, whichever you like, puff switches, for example, which we are setting, and you can use whatever switches you like. But in this case, I'm going to first attach the, let me just turn the mouse off now, and I will connect the adapter cable, which is included in the sales package. And then I am going to connect this 2-button adapter here. So because I'm using the left mouse button and right mouse button, and you can see that one of these, there is a slight color difference. One is silver colored and one is gold colored. And the silver colored is for the left mouse button. The gold colored is for the right mouse button. So now I have 2 switches connected to the mouse, and I'm going to use this for demonstrating the mouse. And let's switch back to this other view. So you can see that I'm wearing the Quha Zono mouse now. So, and you should be able to see the cursor on screen. I guess it is visible there. So my head movements correspond exactly the same, works for Quha Zono and Quha Zono 2. So the number one thing I'm going to go through here is the major new feature for Quha Zono 2 is gestures. So gestures are predefined motion or movement patterns. So when you move your head in a certain manner, it can activate features such as cursor pausing or scrolling or cursor centering. So how the gestures work is that you basically stay still for a while, and that means a little bit over a second. So if you stay still for something like between 1 or 2 seconds, and then you make this gesture, which for example for pausing is that you move left, right, and then the cursor stops. This is a useful feature if you want to stop using your computer for a while, because then your cursor is not moving. Like you see that now when I'm talking, I'm moving my head a little bit, and you can see that the cursor is jumping a little bit, and this may be a little bit annoying, for example, if you are watching a video or doing something where you really don't want to see a jumping cursor. So what I'm now going to do is that I stay here still for a second, then I move left, right, and you can see that now the cursor stopped. So I didn't do anything with my hands, and now when I move my head, the cursor is stopped. And you can kind of unpause the cursor by doing left-right movement, or you can just click a switch. Like I click now a switch which I connected here, so it releases the pause mode. And then this is a pretty useful feature. I think this is the most used feature out of these gestures. And then we have something called cursor centering, which is also useful. I mean, you may have noticed that in some cases your head may be kind of in an awkward position, something like this, and you notice that your cursor is on the side of the screen, and you would like to center it easily. And a really easy way of doing this is using the centering gesture. And stay still for a second, then left, right, up, down. Okay, the cursor was centered, so in this particular case it jumped out of the screen that I'm now showing you, and this is because we have a dual monitor setup here, and the other monitor is actually bigger than the monitor that I'm now showing. So it jumped to the center point of these 2 screens, which in this particular case just appears to be outside of the screen that is visible. But basically the cursor, in a normal case, when you have one monitor, it will jump to the center of the screen, and then it is very simple to continue the using, because cursor is centered, and then you just kind of center your head, and then it is very easy to continue. This is a very requested feature by our users. And then the third feature, which can be activated via gestures, is scrolling. And what you do is that you stay idle for a second, and then you move up, down, down, and you can see that the circular movement is made by the cursor, and that means that it is activated, the feature, and then you move your cursor to the window that you want to scroll, and now my head movements up and down control the scrolling of this window. Also, I can do all this without hands, and when you do the left-right movement, then it releases the scroll mode. So pretty simple. So those are the gestures that are built into the Quha Zono 2. And the other difference is that the head mount kit that I'm now wearing is something that is included with the Quha Zono 2 sales package. So that is a difference. It is also something that you can buy separately. For example, for Quha Zono, you buy the wearing accessory separately. In this case, the Quha Zono includes this particular accessory in the sales package. So that's one difference. And then there is also the Quha 12 software license for Windows 10 included in the Quha Zono 2, and that is a very powerful 12-clicking software. And because we have a separate webinar for that specific software, then I'm not going through the details of the Quha 12 software. But this is really a very powerful 12-clicking software. So if you are unable to, or if you just don't want to use the different clicking methods like physical buttons, then you can do it via virtual mouse software. Like, then you don't have to use any physical switches at all. We have also in Quha Zono 2 we have doubled the battery life. So with the Zono it used to be 30 hours, and for Zono 2 it's about 60 hours of active usage. So that is, of course, it depends on the use. If you are using the mouse 10 hours per day, it will last approximately a week. But then again, if you are not using it quite so much, then the one charge will take you a very long way. Then we have something called configurable switch functionality, which I could show you here. So I'm going to start the Quha Zono settings here. This is the setup software for Quha Zono 1. This is the setup software for Quha Zono 2, and you can see that there is a slight difference here. So both these are downloadable from quha.com. You just go to the support and downloads, and you can see directly. And this is something that when you are using Quha Zono or Quha Zono 2, please remember that the setup software is different for both. They are not compatible with each other. So because I'm now using the Quha Zono 2 mouse, I would be using this one. And this is the Quha Zono setup software. I just show you that it is looking slightly different, but because I'm not going to use it, I'm just closing it. The features are very similar. So both have speed settings, and we have the tremor filter there. And then for mouse buttons, we have the double click assistant and auto click settings. So those are there also for Zono. So the different parts are here. So we can configure, of course, we can configure the gestures on or off. So if you want to use gestures, it is on by default. But if you notice that you don't need them, you can also turn it off to prevent accidentally from activating any function with a gesture. But then the switches that have been connected to the Quha Zono 2, they are configurable. And you notice that in the beginning I connected 2 switches to the Zono. So that means that I can configure the Zono switches here. So the Zono left click is always the left click. And for the right mouse button, which is also connected, I can choose what it does. By default it is doing, well, unsurprisingly, the right click. But I can also configure it for the pausing of the cursor. And now when I click, you can see that I'm moving my head. when I click or click again, it enters pause, unpause, pause, unpause, and so on. So pretty useful feature, I would say, if you want to use pause very often and you don't want to use gestures. So you can also do it with a switch. Also, we can center the cursor. So now you can see that when I click the right mouse button here, the cursor jumped to the center of the screen, which in this particular case happened to be outside of the screen because of the reasons why I explained. We have a dual monitor setup here. We can also choose double left click. For example, if I want to open folders, some things are requiring double click, so you can use that if you want. Then we can use scrolling. If I choose scrolling and then I have a web page, while I have the right mouse button now depressed, I can just scroll by moving my head up and down. Then there is also the possibility of turning the auto click on or off. I'm not demonstrating that one, but that may be useful if you want to use the Zono built-in auto click feature. Now you notice that I have connected these buttons to the Zono side. So these are completely wireless. So I'm not connected with any wires to the USB receiver. But if I have switches connected, you know that there is also on this USB receiver, there is also a 3.5mm connector here. So there is also a possibility of connecting switches on that side. So in this case, you would be able to configure those, and the same possibilities are here as well. And what this means, that together you are able to actually connect 4 different switches to the Quha Zono 2, and you can configure them to do 4 different things. So for example, I could use with the buttons connected or switches connected to the Zono, I could use right click and left click. And then I could, for example, attach 2 additional buttons to the USB receiver, and I could, for example, have the cursor pausing or cursor centering connected to those. So might be very, very useful, but in any case, you are able to connect these different features to any switches you are using. And you remember that because the Quha Zono 2 has standard 3.5mm connector, you can use any puff switches, SIP puff switches, you can use byte switches, you can use basically whatever switches, just have 3.5mm connectors, and they all work with Quha Zono extremely well. Then if we continue here, the difference is basically I have gone more or less through the features. So the stylish black cover is mentioned here. It is basically there to distinguish. It doesn't really affect any functionalities, but it is there to distinguish between different versions of the Quha Zono and Quha Zono 2. And this is basically what I wanted to tell you about the differences of Quha Zono and Quha Zono 2. And at this point, let's go through the questions that we may have. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, actually we do. So there is the question, is it possible to scroll, so swipe left or right with head movement to navigate on smartphone, for example?
Okay, that was a lot of questions. So basically, if we connect the Quha Zono to a smartphone, which you can do easily, so we have different adapters. Let me just, when I'm switching now to the tabletop, because I actually brought some adapters here. So how you connect the Quha Zono to a smartphone? A very typical case would be that your smartphone has a micro USB connector. So you can use a very standard USB OTG cable to connect the Quha Zono to the smartphone. Very typical scenario. We also sell these adapters here. So then there is another. If you have an iPad with a lightning connector, you can use this one to connect Zono. You can actually also charge your iPad at the same time because this has a additional lightning port here. So if you have a permanent installation, you always get the power. And then we have the USB Type-C adapter here, which also has the possibility of charging the device while. But basically, when the Quha Zono features with smartphones, all the gestures work, so scrolling works, pausing works, and also the centering works. So it doesn't really matter whether you are using Windows, whether you are using a Mac, whether you are using an iPhone or iPad, whether you are using an Android tablet or smartphone, a Linux computer. You can use basically whichever devices are compatible with USB mice, and all the features that can be activated via gestures do work there. Was there any other part of the question?
Yeah, actually, I guess the main part was that can you swipe or scroll left and right to navigate on a smartphone?
Yeah, I guess this a little bit depends on the. I'm taking an Android tablet as an example because I have seen two different tablets. So basically, how you swipe is that if you have a physical switch, you go somewhere, basically in the place where you would place your finger and do the swipe movement. You go there, then you click and hold your button or switch, and then you do the sideways movement. And I have seen that especially with modern devices, it works exactly the same way as the swipe. But then also I have seen some older Android devices where it actually does not work. So it depends on the tablet or smartphone manufacturer how it works. They have slightly different user interfaces with the tablet. So it's always worth it to check how that tablet device works with swipe movements with the mouse, because I know that there are differences.
Okay, then is Quha Zono 2 compatible with the Quha accessories?
Yeah, the question was if Quha Zono 2 is compatible with Quha accessories. So yes, it is. So all the Quha Zono accessories are compatible with Quha Zono 2. So that is one of the design criteria for Quha Zono 2. We wanted to make sure that all the accessories that we are selling are also compatible with Quha Zono 2. So you can use all of those. They are compatible. Yes.
Okay, then will the original Quha Zono still be available, or will Quha Zono 2 replace it at some point?
Okay, so the question was whether Quha Zono will remain, well, whether Quha will continue selling Quha Zonos, or will Quha Zono 2 replace? So the answer is that we are going to provide both of these. And the big reason is that because these are usually priced a little bit differently. So Quha Zono 2 is a more expensive mouse. It has also more features. And we know that it is very important that the mouse is priced. In some countries, it is very critical that we are able to sell also a mouse which is not as expensive as Quha Zono 2. And we are going to continue selling Quha Zonos.
Okay, and then one more question is that can I upgrade my Zono to Zono 2?
So the question was whether it is possible to upgrade Quha Zono to Zono. So they are completely different products, and even though they look very similar, there are definite differences, and there is a lot of different software in Quha Zono 2. So when we implemented all the features, there is quite a lot of software changes inside. Yeah, basically that's it. Do we have any questions in the YouTube live chat?
Yeah, I think you have answered all the questions we have.
Excellent. So if you have any other questions that pop up in your mind later, feel free to still send them directly to me, or you can also use the webinar at quha.com to send your question, and we'll try to answer those later. And now I think I have used all my time, so thank you all for attending, and see you again in other Quha webinars. We are having webinars about every month, so feel free. And thank you very much. Bye bye.